All right, we'll go ahead and call this work session to order. Thank you all for joining us today. First item of business is authorizing a nonprofit grant to Red Bank High School for the Junior Lions Club in the amount of $3,825.44. And I'll turn that over to Vice Mayor Dalton for more details.
Thank you, Mayor. This came about because you and I attended the Northside Neighborhood House Impact Luncheon at the high school and got to hear about all the ways that, the community school model is working at the Red Bank High School and helping the students really kind of grow outside of their comfort boundaries and really just become more confident in themselves. And one of the things that has come out of that is the Junior Lions Club, and it's chartered through our local Red Bank Lions Club, which is a registered 501c3. And they have a service project in school that they've been working on for over a year. They've been renovating their senior lounge, and they haven't been able to make any more progress because they ran out of funds. And so I talked to staff. We had a nonprofit line in our legislative budget, and we hadn't used any of it. And it was $5,000, I believe. And the amount that they still need is $3,825.44. And there was a cost estimate list that's included. It's on the back of that first page of the budget for all of the remaining items that they need. And I know it's especially important to some of the kids in the Junior Lions Club because they're graduating seniors. They're about to leave and they really want to be able to finish this project before they go off to college. So I was hoping that we could help them complete this project.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
So I just want to say that, there's some precedent for direct commission support of our students in the past. There's been, I believe, some funds provided to Alpine Crest Elementary for their playground.
That's right.
And as well to Red Bank High School that we're talking about now for their library, or for a meeting room adjacent to their library.
That's right.
So this is not out of character for past contributions that have been made. Does anybody else have any questions for the Vice Mayor or thoughts about this agenda item?
Which line was it in?
There was a nonprofit line. I think they've removed that and moved it over to maybe community development now. And so this is the last time that we will have that line item in our budget.
It's in the budget, but would it then later turn into possibly the nonprofit community committee?
I believe that the intent of that, the ARPA funds, for that is for the next 3 years to do that. And those will be like micro grants that the nonprofit board will vet and people will apply for those that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is just like a one-time donation just to help them finish this project.
I think in a perfect world, we would have encouraged them to apply to that nonprofit board and to apply for those ARPA funds that we had set aside. But because our nonprofit board hasn't quite gotten, all the way up and running yet, to the point that they are ready to take those applications, and because this is a time-sensitive matter with seniors about to graduate, I think that's why we kind of, fast-tracked this low-dollar item. But hopefully by next year, if Red Bank seniors had some kind of project they wanted to apply for, we'd have a venue for that, hopefully through our community development department, to kind of be able to oversee that in a more official manner.
Yes, and I will say, I don't know what it's going to look like, but there are some members of the Junior Lions Club that are going to be here at our regular meeting to do a presentation. So we'll be able to ask them some questions about the project.
A presentation about their project, the senior lounge in particular?
Yes.
Okay.
But the ARPA funds for the $150,000 is through 2026.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still got time left on that.
Right.
Mercifully.
Well, here we go.
Commissioner Phillips?
Well, I just don't know if it's proper for us to pick and choose where we do our I mean, what kind of precedent have we had on this, you said?
So I don't know the years, but in the past, the commission has given funds directly to Alpine Crest Elementary for the building of their playground, because they didn't
Okay.
used to have a playground at that elementary school, and as well as the meeting room that's behind the library. Actually, the meeting where this luncheon occurred in, that we heard about this need, that my understanding is the funds for that room were also provided by a previous commission.
Well, I can't tell you exactly, I don't have it, but Tracy did send me, a couple of resolutions from recent times. So 2012, there was a donation. I think it was the Alpine Crest Playground donation. And then in 2017 was the other one, because I needed some like language to help me draft, work up this resolution. And so those were resolutions that were passed by the commission in previous years.
And I don't want to open floodgates here.
Right.
I mean, this is, I mean, there are, the Lions Club sells nuts. You know what I'm saying? There's other ways to raise money than coming here. Where did we come up with was this just?
This was just me.
Okay.
We were at this meeting and I was like, if we can figure out a way, if there are some funds in any kind of, budget that we had that were appropriate. And then when I asked Tracy, she said that we had that nonprofit donation line item in our budget. That's the legislative budget. That's $5,000. And we have not used any of it this year for like this budget year.
Did we use any of it last year?
I don't know.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Phillips, about wanting to be discerning and not opening the floodgates to any old comer.
Right. Well, and why do you say one's yes and one no? That's where, I mean, where do we draw the line?
Right.
So.
Well, this is definitely would be considered a one-off, because as we said before, future requests will hopefully have an official path and venue to go through our nonprofit advisory board, and not us anymore. So yes.
And Emma, was this just a shortfall that they did have a fundraising thing and this was a shortfall, or is this, I mean, how did this?
They did some fundraising and they were able to make some progress on the project, and then it just kind of stalled out. And I think they just didn't know how else to try to raise funds.
Okay.
And that's, they just talked about it. They didn't ask for money from the city. This was just me listening to them talk about this and thinking, if there's a way that we can help them, I'd like to. If we can't, maybe we can help facilitate some kind of fundraising, or I could just personally, but when I asked Tracy about that and we had that line item, it seemed to make sense.
But it's blank here for.
That's right. Cause it got moved to community development.
Okay. All right.
For the next year.
This is a room in the high school.
That's
Yes.
right. It's in the cafeteria.
It's off the rear of the cafeteria, kind of between. It's like an anteroom between the cafeteria and the rear exit.
I mean, and this is open for all the students there, not just
It's
Yeah.
for all seniors.
all seniors. Okay.
It's like a special lounge for seniors.
Yeah. I mean, to Commissioner Phillips' point, I don't think it's so much that we're picking and choosing. I mean, there's one high school in Red Bank. And,
Well,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think I have no problem with it, honestly. So.
Can you help me find it? Because I don't see it in the community development line. I see that addition and library cards for $5,000 in community development.
It was in
I think
our
she's-
budget that was approved last year.
Right.
I mean, like a reference line number,
Yes. And a line item.
line 687 or something like that.
Greg has it, I guess.
17. This was last year's budget. It's not gonna be on that one.
Because on this one, it says.
That's all that's changed. That's just a new format.
Okay.
This was the approved budget for last year.
And that
Are you
was-
talking about where it's moved to, Jamie?
I'm just trying to find it.
Oh, you aren't?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not gonna be in the new budget because it's not in there.
It's budgeted because of the big ARPA number.
So it just got removed entirely.
Removed for the upcoming year.
Okay, so it's just going to be the ARPA funds for that nonprofit line that, or the nonprofit grants.
It just,
So it's technically not in the budget. Okay,
Where's
And
the,
not-
it is for the year that you're in, there is
Yes.
a budget line.
okay,
We have it marked as zero because I didn't think you were gonna do anything before the end of the year, the next 2 months, but that was just an estimate. But there is a budget in this year, it's not budgeted for next year because there was already a large amount that needed to be spent.
can you tell me where are the ARPA funds indicated? Where are those?
This is on page 18 of the the budget estimate. That big giant packet that's up on your desk. The memo from me, if you come through about the middle of it, you get some hand numbered pages. Page 18 is the ARPA budget,
yes,
and it shows nonprofit endeavors.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
okay, and 5,000 will be taken out of that for this.
No, this ARPA budget that is in this, that's for.
It's totally
beginning month
separate.
line.
We haven't spent any of that and we're not spending
Correct.
any of that until after this budget is
Correct.
approved.
Okay, I got that.
And then the 5,000 is just going away for this upcoming budget.
Correct, in the current year,
It's not getting reallocated anywhere else or anything like that.
Okay, so this 5,000 is working out of this budget.
That's
Yes.
right.
yes.
That
There's a
was,
zero in the other, but
Because
it's,
that's estimated of what I thought we were actually gonna spend, that's not the budget line,
Yeah.
because that's the format for the ordinance, and it's an estimated, and I didn't know you were gonna spend it, but
Okay.
you changed it.
okay, all right, thank you, and thank you.
The budget that we approved last
Last year.
year had
Had
that
it.
money in there.
Yep.
That's the estimate, that we're going off of.
Right.
Doesn't, because we hadn't spent it.
Right.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on this item? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to, item 2, Red Bank Citizenship Award Program. This has been something I've been thinking about for a few years now. I often get invited to Red Bank High School graduations and award nights. And there's all kinds of different groups and organizations that present awards to outstanding seniors for different accomplishments. And as part of our endeavor to strengthen community ties between the city itself and our schools, our zoned schools, I was hoping that the city could start participating in an award like that. In my mind, citizenship made the best sense because that's what we're trying to build out of our graduating seniors is good participating citizens who become a strong part of our community. And so I found some sample language around similar citizenship awards elsewhere in the country and modified it a little bit to be specific to Red Bank. And this resolution would allow us to establish this as an annual award. I did have one senior in mind in particular to be the first recipient. And I in the resolution, if you've read it, it establishes a committee to decide on the recipient. That would include the 5 commissioners of Red Bank, as well as our school board, District 6 Hamilton County School Board member, and the Red Bank High School principal to nominate and concur on an awardee. So in the interest of time, because the Red Bank Senior Awards Night happens to be tomorrow night, if this commission should grant it, I've consulted with the principal and the school board member, as well as some other community members. And everyone has agreed that Red Bank High School senior Darian Moore is a great candidate to be the first recipient of this award that recognizes a community service, outstanding character, and if you're interested, I do have the recommendations from Robert Love, the Northside Neighborhood House Community School Director at Red Bank High School, and Sal Arrigo, the Red Bank High School Junior Lions Club Advisor. And Darian is a member of the Junior Lions Club that we were just discussing, actually. So does anybody have any thoughts or questions about the Citizenship Award?
Would be for a senior.
Yes, for one Red Bank High School senior each year, each graduate.
Do they have
graduating
to
class.
be in the junior lines?
No.
Good, okay.
Yeah, it's not related to the Junior Lions. It's a coincidence that this individual happens to be a member.
Would the applications be, because I'm going to the senior night tomorrow night as well, would they be applications maybe until March and then the committee goes through and vets the application?
Yeah, I think there's some rough timelines laid out in the resolution that gives some suggested, deadlines
Yeah.
for when the nomination should occur. And,
Okay.
definitely if senior awards night weren't tomorrow, we would take this also in a more official stance. And next year, if we adopt this resolution next year, we can take it in a more leisurely fashion as well, with a little bit more formal nomination process, and the committee can meet if we want to, that sort of thing.
And it would be recognizing the student,
Mhm.
maybe with a
A plaque.
certificate.
Mhm.
Okay.
A plaque or certificate, as well as I did request a $500 scholarship. It's not a big amount, but for going off to college, a senior, that's a couple of textbooks. It makes a big difference, and that is out of the same legislative nonprofit as the Senior Lounge. So again, we had $5,000. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor? In that balance, the Senior Lounge is $3,800. This award would be again $500. I'd love to get a business sponsor or a match for that amount in the future, but there just wasn't the time to coordinate that on such a short timeline.
I was
this
thinking
year.
Lions Club or
Mhm.
the Signal Mountain Red Bank
Oh, the
Coalition Chamber.
The
Oh, yeah, the
Or
chamber.
all three,
Mhm.
us a little, them a little,
Yeah.
because we're stretched. And
It's
I can
definitely
see,
something that, well, the mission of our council, because I'm an advisory board member of the Signal Mountain, Red Bank Signal Mountain Chattanooga Chamber Council. And that's the whole, point is,
Yeah.
to find ways to, invest and support our public education system.
I believe the Red Bank Lions Club already has a scholarship,
they do.
so they
That's
probably
right.
wouldn't want to compete with that with their own scholarship. But Vice Mayor, do you happen to know whether the Chamber of Commerce, the Red Bank chapter, has any kind of scholarship existing?
They
for
don't right
seniors?
now.
Okay, so that could be a really great
If it
angle
could
for
be-
next year.
200 from us, 200 from them, 200 from Lions Club. Now, Lions Club, I get that's a more entailed amount for them. But if we can collaborate, or maybe there's another nonprofit or a citizen in Red Bank that would
Mhm.
help
Contribute
supplement that.
individually.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rotary, another group like that. I'm definitely interested in exploring that. Again, just the time with the ceremony being tomorrow, just didn't have the time to align that for this year. But especially considering this line item's going away in next year's budget, it would behoove us to find a more permanent ongoing source of funding. I would like there to be something more than a piece of paper associated with this, because the paper's great for your, resumes and applications, but a few $100 goes a long way for a college student, for sure.
So that leaves, at least, $300, right?
In the legislative fund?
Yeah.
So it's got 5,000 budgeted.
It'd be like $675 or something.
Okay,
Yes.
700.
700-ish. There was a precise amount for the senior lounge. So it's not
Yes.
quite exactly
Okay.
3,800, but 700-ish.
Is there a place place where, an appropriate place where this could or would come from next year or in an ongoing manner?
For our portion of a match for such a thing.
Right.
We can find one. And somewhere in the community development budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably it'd still be in that 710 item if we wanted to budget for it outside of ARPA funds.
I'd still try to get matches,
Oh,
not
yeah.
go all 500, but to put our portion in and then trusting, and if it's not, then it's $200
Yeah.
from us
Mhm.
if we can't find matches.
It's good thinking. Definitely no disagreement like with that for future years going forward. Any thoughts on this side of the dais?
No, I think it's fine. I think support that and, yeah, I mean, finding that recurring spot in the community development budget would be, I think, prudent going forward. Kind of give it some structure and,
Yes,
a little less freewheeling, but.
definitely.
But no, that's my only criticism.
Mr. Stoltz, I have a question. If we're going to vote on this resolution to establish a process for all of this and criteria, but now we're talking about $200 with potential matches from the community, do we need to amend the language from where it says the $500 scholarship?
The way it's presently structured, it is to establish a $500 scholarship funded by the city of Red Bank.
Okay,
But we could obviously modify that prior to next year's award if we had a new structure.
okay,
If you passed it as it's written, you can modify it prior to next year.
okay.
It's to say the city of Red Bank and others.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Right now, it says what it says,
Mhm.
Which is the city of Red Bank spending $5,500 for this and establishing the scholarship, which can be amended or rescinded or not funded at any time the city commission chooses.
Okay.
Or amended, you see.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, that's the, okay,
All right,
thank you.
next up.
But-
Sorry, go ahead.
Since this is going to be done tomorrow night, if you're going to award that to a person because this envisions a committee action, then you would need to verbally amend this one to, for whatever the person's name was that you were speaking of earlier. Unless your committee's gonna meet between now and tomorrow.
Okay, so we should, for the sake of, the resolution I was understanding was to establish the annual award. We would need to include the individual's name in this resolution.
The city's gonna write a check for $500.
We could, present like certificate portion of the award at the awards night tomorrow and perhaps a proclamation for the next meeting, to include the
Well,
check
yeah,
at a later
you
date?
can- You can do it that way if you get votes the next meeting.
Okay,
For sure.
Martin.
Mayor, one possibility is that since this has been specifically referred to as a scholarship, it could make this specific individual eligible, but they need to show proof of admission and acceptance. Usually a scholarship is tied to some guarantee of utilization for higher ed. So it's rarely a check to a person and then we're done. So it could be that we name this individual and present them that they are eligible to receive this scholarship, but we could come up with some steps that would actually realize the cutting of the check when criteria are met. We could work that offline, but typically when you use the term scholarship, it at least requires admission to a university, and oftentimes it actually is a reimbursement of tuition expenses for some legitimate expenses towards your education. So that could be downstream.
Okay. Is there anything that we need to modify for this resolution today in order to handle it that that way.
You mind commenting on that? Well,
Well, if you're going to name a person to be eligible, the person should be named. And we could add a clause that said, upon establishing eligibility by, proof of admission to a, recognized institution of higher learning to the committee for approval.
Would that potentially include trade schools or only?
That's
Yeah.
what, the scholarship
There-
we
there
have
go.
is they have to go to a school. Trade school counts for the little scholarship my family has. And then, city manager is correct in that the check goes to that school. Unless we want this as a recognition and just write the check to the child. That's what,
how, I think the friends, I just saw this in the River and Ridge. If you guys read those and don't let them pile up and go into your stormwater drains. But the Friends of Hickson does that. They do that every year, and they just had the recognition where they to me, the way it sounded, I mean, they present her basically with a certificate. Well, this year it was a female student, and with the with a check for like school, expenses.
I might
Okay.
suggest that we pass a resolution or consider a resolution that is somewhat vague and then allow us staff to flesh it out with actionable criteria such that it would allow a trade school or higher education, and we'll benchmark off some others that provide the actual criteria. But I think probably I might recommend that once that criteria is met, it is simply a check to the recipient rather than the institution.
That would be my leaning as well. As a recipient of several scholarships, it was very helpful to have a few of them end up in my bank account where I could go on the first day of school and buy my supplies that I need rather than having them, disappear into the bursar's office somewhere, especially such a small dollar
and then if you give it to the student, they could buy gas
amount.
or
Groceries, whatever they
food,
need.
and I know they're hungry and I know they need gasoline, but it's a matter of where are the funds placed when that child says, I'm going here, wherever it may be. We had one that went to lineman school. You gotta have an education to do that. So I think with committee naming, what is required, the steps we take for this resolution to, be established, guidelines.
Okay. Do y'all want to hear anything about Darian? The recommendations I received, I can read a few paragraphs about him briefly, see if you all have any other thoughts. So this is from Robert Love. Again, he is the coordinator for the Northside Neighborhood House Community School in Red Bank High. He says, I have known Darian L. Moore for the past 2 years as one of our stellar Junior Lion Leo leadership members at Red Bank High School. I've been consistently impressed by Mr. Moore's tenacity towards his academics and his community performance as an outstanding senior student. His leadership and communication skills have allowed him to develop productive working relationships with both our students and community partners. Darian has shown passion and leadership through his participation with the Junior Lions Club. As Junior Lions 2024 president and 2023 vice president, Darian has also served our Red Bank community through special activities, including Red Bank High School Community Fair and the Red Bank High School football games tailgating. Darian has volunteered at Red Bank Elementary School as a child care monitor and even served students and staff for several internal events at Red Bank High. His presence within our Junior Lions organization has afforded us a very strong reputation within the city of Red Bank, Tennessee. Mr. Morris consistently impressed me with his abilities to successfully manage and balance his zeal for leadership and above average grades. On campus, he stands out as one of our great student leaders. He has accumulated more than 100 service hours of volunteering in the Red Bank community. While volunteering, Darian has also been able to serve as our school's JROTC highest ranking battalion commander. In conclusion, I would simply like to say Darian L. Moore comes with my highest recommendation for this recognition. And from Sal Arrigo, the Red Bank High School Junior Lions Club advisor, I've known Darian for 2 years, ever since he became a member of the Junior Lions Club at Red Bank High School. He's an outstanding young man, also a member of the JROTC at Red Bank. He has volunteered for many community events and projects while displaying leadership as the current president of the Junior Lions. He's also an outstanding student who's been accepted into Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, planning to major in nuclear engineering, and upon graduation has indicated he will be joining the U.S. Navy. Darian does have a keen sense of humor and gets along with many students and is respected by his peers. You could not find a better person to honor than Mr. Darian Moore. And I'll add that Mr. Moore came to my attention because I've been seeing him over and over again consistently volunteering at events across the city, and even at last year's graduation when he was a junior, escorting people to their seats. And he's very highly spoken of by his peers and obviously by his leaders around him. So unofficially, verbal consensus, I've confirmed with Ben Connor, our school board representative, and Principal Tillett, the Red Bank High School principal, that they agree Darian Moore is a good recipient for this award. Does this commission agree that we should name him as our first recipient? Should this resolution be passed?
All right, well, I've held my silence. I just don't think it's in our business to be a philanthropist with the tax dollars. I don't think that's our job. I understand the gentleman is there. I donate $200 to him myself, but I think that's where it needs to be. It needs to be a donation, or we gather something up on that. It's just, I'm not saying none of it needs to be done. I just say that's kind of, I think there's some citizens out there that need to be stand up and heard, and I'll represent them here tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips.
And it could be that we recognize, and no money with it, but the recognition of good citizenship.
Thank you, Commissioner Fairbanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Any other thoughts on this?
I can just say that I have met and interacted with Darian many times at Red Bank High School through various events, and he's just a very intelligent, kind, respectful student, and clearly he has great aspirations for himself. So I just wanted to say that because I've had personal interactions with him. So.
All right.
Will this be based on need, any of
The resolution as it's before us today does not provide any criteria based on need, but merely on outstanding citizenship actions.
It's page 41 of the agenda packet.
Okay.
It's like the last resolution attached.
I just got the police. I'll find it somewhere.
Well, we can discuss further during the 6 o'clock meeting if we need to. We have a very important presentation of the budget estimate as our next item on the work session agenda. So I want to be sure we get to that. Okay. Mr. Granum?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Tracy,
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
I wanted to begin with just to recap how we got here. Next slide, please, Tracy. The FY25 budget process. Preparation began with conversations with department directors beginning in February. Budget dates for FY25 memo was published on 19 January, just a visual aid. My multicolored with red and green and black and white. We're all over the place, but it laid out a roadmap for the process that we followed to get to here. It envisioned 4 budget workshops, the 26th of March, the 9th, 23rd, and 30th of April. Thank you, Commission. You've been working very hard. This is a monumental effort to really, in a public session, go through everything from soup to nuts. 4 citizens have qualified for the Budget Academy, and with respect to the zero attendance we had last year at budget workshops. This is a really strong show, and the 4 really isn't tell the whole story. There was a small crowd at each of the budget workshops. There were 4 that made it through all 4, and we will recognize them. The plan is to recognize them at the first reading of the budget. City charter requires that the city manager present the budget estimate, and that's a buzzword in our city charter. That's why I keep referring back to it, to the commission not later than the 15th of May each year. This year, we are presenting it tonight on the 7th of May. Important to note, the budget process in the budget ordinance, it sets the property tax rate, and there is no change this year in the property tax rate. We haven't talked about that, but it's worth simply stating there's no change to the property tax rate. In Red Bank, any ordinance, including the budget ordinance, requires 2 readings. So the proposed budget, and that's kind of a wonky buzzword in financial circles, the proposed budget, that's what staff transmit to the commission for consideration, is planned for first reading of the budget ordinance on Tuesday, 21 May. The proposed budget is then planned for second reading of the budget ordinance on Tuesday, 4 June. Enactment occurs upon passing of the second reading, and it becomes the adopted budget and takes effect 1 July 2024 and continues through the fiscal year ending 30 June 2025. So I just kind of wanted to outline the process. And commissioners, now, if I could ask you to take a look at that budget packet that I laid on your desk. And for anyone else here, there's a stack of them back there. They're available on the webpage as well. I have 4 yellow tabs for the commissioners, and I'll just briefly orient you. The top page is my budget memo, and I'll read that here in just a second. The top tab, the first tab, is all the department directors' budget memos are there, and there's 5: police, fire, public works, community development, administration, and finance. So you and the citizens can hear directly from subject matter experts on what their needs and priorities are. The second yellow tab is the budget itself, which is a wonky spreadsheet, and we've been over that in great detail. It is a complex presentation of numbers only. That's why the preceding memorandums are more important. They tell the story of what we're really doing. The budget numbers themselves don't really tell the story. But the budget numbers are at the heart of the budget, and so this is the budget document. The next tab is Q&A, and there's 18 pages, and they're numbered there. Page 2 is actually a directory of the Q&A, and there's a lot of it. It's a very rich source of additional information, and there's also information on our court department as well. The last yellow tab, the bottom one, is some supplemental information. And I've included the proposed jobs by grade, and that is the pay for everybody on the city team. And the very last page, back of that, is of what we're doing in terms of debt. And this year, the debt is all entirely focused on 6 police cruisers. So that is the budget packet. And then now I'm going to swing back to the very front page of that budget packet and read my budget estimate memo for the record. City Manager's FY25 budget estimate dated 7 May 2024, addressed to you, the Red Bank City Commission. This memo transmits the FY25 budget estimate to the Red Bank Commission for the fiscal year beginning 1 July 2024 and ending 30 June 2025, referred to as FY25. This budget estimate addresses the following key objectives. Addresses all 5 commission goals, and there's an asterisk there, and I'll ask you to just flip the page over. This year I've included the commission goals directly on my budget message, and I'll just briefly go over them. Improve multimodal transportation network, develop a comprehensive plan, including fulfilling the land conversion agreement and the former Red Bank Middle School site, develop park trails and recreation services, identify and celebrate areas of Stringer's Branch to improve environmental stewardship, and update entrances to the city. Those are the 5 commission goals from the 3rd annual retreat of February. Getting back to my reading of the front page of the budget packet, the second bullet, remain competitive as an employer of choice to attract and retain talent with a 3% cost of living adjustment, COLA, for all employees to keep pace with inflation. In the Q&A, there's a definition of employer of choice for those who really want to know specifically what we're talking about. Third bullet, make targeted staff investments in specific areas to build staff capacity where it is most needed. Fourth bullet, sustain a level of service delivery excellence across all municipal services. The following memos from each department address their unique needs: police, fire, public works, community development, and finance and administration. And those are the memos in the following pages. From a citywide perspective, this budget is forthright regarding several aspects of service delivery. Inflation is impacting all aspects of this budget. Accordingly, a 3% COLA is necessary to keep our pay competitive and sustain our focus on remaining an employer of choice. By comparison, Social Security COLA was 3.2% for 2024, so we're projecting slightly less than that. We are requesting 2 additional staff to add essential capacity where it is most needed: administrative support in our community development endeavors and an engineering technician in public works. And we've been over both those rather in great detail in the workshops. The Red Bank Police Department is budgeting 6 new law enforcement vehicles to sustain their fleet. For the first time since the mid-90s, and I'm told 1996 specifically, the city of Red Bank will budget for an element of mass transit. Currently, it's a relatively modest $15,600 from State Street Aid. And I will just note for the record that State Street Aid is an eligible pot of money to apply to transit, up to 22.22% of your allocation of State Street Aid, your being any jurisdiction's allocation of State Street Aid, up to 22.22% of that allocation can be used for mass transit. And we are well underneath that. Our allocation is just shy of $500,000, and we're proposing to use $15,600 of that. Currently, it's a relatively modest $15,600 from State Street Aid, but it represents a noteworthy commitment to meeting paratransit transportation needs for eligible members of our community and to furthering our partnership with CARTA. Should this budget pass with this funding in it, you can anticipate staff coming back to you with a much more detailed update on paratransit and CARTA. Lastly, this budget represents the remaining aspects of a number of ongoing planning efforts, many of which will conclude this budget year and will foster discussion of next steps and consideration of strategic measures towards implementation. Flipping over to the backside of my memo. There are also organizational changes represented in this budget, creating 2 departments. This budget recognizes community development as an independent department, separate from, but interdependent with, the Public Works Department. This will create a department focused on planning and development, which is where we are experiencing the greatest demand, both in terms of pursuing commission goals as well as facilitating private development. The second new department is recognizing all the internal support functions housed within City Hall as a single department with 1 director empowered to manage it efficiently and effectively, aligning most internal support functions and support staff under the Department of Administration and Finance, referred to as City Hall. I encourage all to read through the accompanying department-specific memos, as well as the questions and answers for further understanding of the budget and the service delivery outcomes it supports. Respectfully submitted, your city manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And what a timely report too. It's 5:45. Does anyone have any questions for our city manager regarding his budget estimate before we move on to citizen comments?
I do. I don't know if I can say it now or wait for my report, which is better.
You have an opinion, Mr. Granum?
Yeah, I would say, Commissioner, there's probably 3 opportunities, and depending on you, you could repeat it at all. There's also your report, and then this comes back up. It's an agenda item in the regular
Okay.
session as well.
I'll do it during the agenda or during the commission meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Granum? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Granum.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. So the rest of our items on our work session are agenda items for our 6 o'clock meeting. And we have reached the time for citizen comments for items on this work session agenda. Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules for citizen comments. Citizen comments are limited to 2 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate the timer visible on the dais. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments if time expires. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect to reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium to comment. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Michael McCain, 4200 Tacoma Avenue. There are 13 cities and towns within Hamilton County. Red Bank ranks 4th in population, with the 5th and 6th cities less than 1,000 people fewer than Red Bank. Of the 13, there are 3 which do not have a property tax. Red Bank ranks 5th highest in property tax. Again, of those 13 areas, Red Bank ranks 13th in median income. Income by a few $1,000s. Compare Red Bank to 5 Tennessee cities above the size of Red Bank and 5 Tennessee cities below Red Bank. Has the highest property tax and is ranked 5th in median income. So what we've done there is compared the 48th city through the 58th largest city. Approximately 25% of the population of Red Bank is over the age of 60. Furthermore, the average income for a person over the age of 65 in Red Bank is less than $30,000, which is over $20,000 less than the median income within the city of Red Bank. There are less than 5,000 residential dwellings in the city, with a majority of those people over the age of 60 living within those residences. Your solution last year was telling people to apply for the property tax relief program covered by the state of Tennessee. Maximum market value on which a tax relief is calculated for a person over 65 was $30,900. I submit to you the solution is not passing the blame onto past commissioners or recommending programs which require additional tax dollars, but getting your own house in order. In the past 2
Conclude your
years,
comments, sir. Your time's up. Time's up.
thank you.
You have another opportunity to comment at the 6 o'clock meeting. Thank you, Mr. McCain. Any further comments for items on this work session agenda? Okay. If there are no more comments, then does this commission have any further business to discuss? If not, then we'll go ahead and adjourn for our 6 o'clock meeting. Work session.
You okay for it?